My name is Mia Kirk. I'm a 38-year-old part-time working mom. I met my husband through a matchmaking service and now we have a daughter. We are a happy family of 3.
Hey, there's a really nice house for sale in a great location. It's used, but it's perfect.
It even has a yard, so it's safe for our kid to play outside. We have enough money, so how about buying it?
A home of our own. How wonderful.
The house we bought is very comfortable, and my husband is very supportive with childcare.
I'm home. I'll take care of the rest, so you can relax.
But aren't you tired too?
Mia, you're working from home while taking care of the kid. When I'm home, you should take it easy. It's exhausting to watch the kid and work at the same time, right? Really? Then I'll take a little break.
My husband always used his free time to help the family. It's tough, but he still makes time for us. He notices when I need help and comes to my rescue. I'm so glad I married such a good man. I thought I was living a peaceful and happy married life. However, one day while walking around town, I thought, now that our kid has started kindergarten, it's easier to get out during the day. Wait, isn't that someone who looks like Sean? But he should be at work now, so it can't be him. And he's with a woman, looking very friendly. No way. Feeling curious, I got closer. No, it's not just someone who looks like him. It's really him. And the woman next to him is Hannah. Why are they holding hands and coming out of a hotel together? I was shocked to see my husband and my sister Hannah looking so close. Aren't they standing too close? Could it be an affair? He's never shown any signs of it, or has he? Since our daughter started kindergarten, my husband has been going out alone a bit more often. It's a relief now that she's started kindergarten. Yeah, now I can get the housework done while she's there. So, I've been turning down invitations because of the kid, but do you think it's okay if I go out sometimes? You've been coming home early and putting the family first on weekends. As long as you let me know in advance, I can manage on my own.
Thanks. If you ever want to go out and take a break, let me know, okay? You've been focusing on childcare a lot lately. It'd be good for you to meet your friends sometimes.
At the time, I thought he was being considerate. Could it have been just to meet Hannah? I want to believe they were just holding hands, but he also cheated with my boyfriend before, so I can't trust him anymore. In my 20s, I had a boyfriend I was thinking about marrying. We were doing well, but one day he suddenly said, "I'm sorry, but I've fallen for your sister, Hannah. Please break up with me."
What? What are you talking about?
I was shocked by his unexpected confession. I'm sorry, sis. At first, I just wanted to get to know him better since he might become my brother-in-law someday, but I ended up falling for him. My sister looked apologetic, but also had that look of someone in love when she looked at my ex. My sister always wanted what I had and liked matching things with me, but I never thought she'd go after my boyfriend too.
No way. I want the same as my big sister.
This is yours, Hannah. This one is mine. They're the same.
No way.
As a child, she cried so much that I often gave in. All right. Here you go.
Yay! Thanks, sis. I love you.
Even though it was sometimes a hassle, I found her innocence adorable. Hannah really loves you, doesn't she? Mia, are you sure you're okay? We appreciate it, but if you don't like it, you should say so. My parents treated us equally, so it hadn't been a problem until now. As we got older, she showed interest in my friends, but it was cute. She's still following me around. Will Hannah be okay in the future? I worried, but seeing Hannah blend in with her bright personality and looks reassured me. But then, to think she'd steal my boyfriend of 3 years. We had always been close sisters, but this caused a rift. You knew he was my boyfriend. Why did you do it? I'm sorry. But I fell for him. And he said he likes me too, so I was happy.
Don't be ridiculous.
My boyfriend was completely smitten with my sister, and I ended up crying my eyes out. When I found out they started dating, as expected, I cried even more. I loved him. How could he fall for Hannah so easily? I don't want to love anyone anymore. Cheaters are the worst. Thinking that way, I chose Sean because he seemed honest and responsible, even if there wasn't any romantic feeling. But now Hannah is getting close to my husband again. I thought Sean would never cheat. He always prioritized family and cherished our child. But now he's with Hannah. Is it because I wasn't enough? Remembering how well things had been going, I started to overthink everything. Still in shock, I staggered toward them. Huh? Mia. Before I could think, I found myself speaking to my startled husband. So your sister can make you happier. Sorry, I didn't realize sooner. I was just in the way, wasn't I?
No, it's not like that.
What? Sis?
Why are you here?
Seeing my husband panic and my sister looking slightly guilty, I couldn't hold back my tears. Don't worry about me. Be happy together.
Wait! It's not what you think. Wait, sis!
They tried to stop me, but I ran away as fast as I could. I said it in the heat of the moment. But even if he says it's not what it looks like, why were they holding hands? I don't want to be with someone who cheats. Didn't Hannah regret taking my boyfriends before? And now she's doing it again. What did I do wrong? As much as I didn't want to believe it, I remembered the time my sister stole my boyfriend, and anger welled up.
I don't care about my husband anymore. If they want to be together, I'll leave them. Hannah was cute and looked up to me, so I never thought she'd hurt me. But I won't forgive them this time.
Determined, I got the divorce papers and went home. While taking care of my daughter, I thought about how to get back at them. My husband came home after our daughter had fallen asleep. Welcome back. You're late. Were you with Hannah until now? I'm home. Mia, about what happened this afternoon, it's not what you think. My husband spoke nervously. Why not? If you just came out of the hotel together, I could believe it was a coincidence. But you were holding hands so affectionately. And it was a lover's grip. How can you say it's different? What was wrong with me? You could have told me. I asked my husband calmly.
Mia, you're not at fault. You're an incredibly reliable wife. There's no one better than you.
Then why were you with my sister? I'm sorry. Just saying sorry doesn't explain anything. Seeing you two together made me realize I can't do this anymore. I want a divorce. I placed the completed divorce papers on the table.
No, I don't want a divorce. Please reconsider.
Then why were you with Hannah? And why didn't you tell me? What's the reason for meeting my sister in secret? How could it lead to holding hands and leaving a hotel together? When I asked for an explanation, my husband kept repeating that he didn't want a divorce. I kept pressing, and finally, he told me why he was with my sister. When we got married, we exchanged contact information because we were becoming family. Because of past issues, I had distanced myself from my sister. So the first time my husband met her was at a family gathering. You exchanged contact information then? When did you have time for that? She asked me when I stepped out to use the restroom. I want to get along with my future brother-in-law because I'll be part of the family. I'm worried about my sister, so I'd like to stay in touch. We had a fight and lost contact, but I want to be close like before. Please. It seemed like she was just concerned about her sister. We kept in touch, and she often worried about us during childcare. It was comforting amid the busyness. She wanted to hear about Mia from my perspective, so we met occasionally to talk. Over time, I started to develop feelings for Hannah. I knew it wasn't right to meet alone, so I tried to stop, but after meeting a few times, I suggested we stop meeting in person. Did I do something wrong? It's not appropriate to meet alone, even if we're family. But I want to talk more with you, Sean. The more he thought it was wrong, the more aware he became. Eventually, they ended up in an affair. From my husband's story, it was clear Hannah didn't intend to steal again, but it happened. Even if that wasn't the intention, you still cheated. It's not like that with Hannah. She didn't mean for this to happen. But we couldn't stop. I'm really sorry. I won't see her anymore. You're the only one I love as my wife. No matter what you say, I won't do it. The fact that you cheated won't change. I can't trust you anymore, and I'd always doubt you if we stayed together. I'd worry you're cheating again. I'd fear you'd easily abandon the family. I could endure it, but I'm sorry. I'll take custody of our daughter, and you can have everything else. Please, just divorce me. No way. My husband, in shock, realized he couldn't say anything. Okay, we'll get a divorce. I'm really sorry. I'll make sure to pay alimony and child support. I'll move out within a week. So, I got custody of our daughter, and the house went to my husband. We got divorced. Afterward, I informed my parents and in-laws about the divorce and apologized. I'm really sorry this happened because of my shortcomings. I felt especially sorry because my in-laws and I had a good relationship, and they loved our daughter.
Mia, it's not your fault at all. It's our son who should be sorry. Our son was in the wrong. Mia, you must have been hurt. You don't have to apologize so much.
I'm really sorry. If I had been a better woman, my husband wouldn't have cheated. As I kept apologizing with my gaze lowered, my in-laws comforted me.
Mia, you have nothing to feel guilty about.
Our son is the one who cheated. If possible, we'd like to see our granddaughter sometimes. But don't feel obligated if it's too painful for you. Then I apologized to my parents. Because of my shortcomings, Sean and Hannah. I'm sorry for the divorce. What happened? It seems they were having an affair. I should have been more vigilant, but I can't stand being with him anymore. I failed. As I explained, I thought I had moved on, but my heart felt like it was being torn apart, and tears flowed naturally. Sean's affair was with her.
She's always wanted Mia's things, but this has gone too far.
Understanding the situation, my parents were shocked and furious with my sister. We called my sister over for an urgent family meeting. I thought you knew better. Do you realize what you've done?
You're not a child anymore. Didn't you understand what's right and wrong?
My parents questioned my sister with voices full of pain. I know. I didn't mean for this to happen, but I fell for him. I knew it would hurt my sister, but I couldn't stop. I didn't mean for this to happen, but I want to be with Sean.
Just because you fell for him doesn't make it right. This isn't about borrowing things. You took your sister's husband, and now you're saying this. You always wanted Mia's things, but I never thought you've gone this far. You need to reflect on this. This is unforgivable. Sis, I'm sorry. I only wanted to get along with your husband because he's your husband. But I ended up falling for him. Please forgive me.
My sister never meant any harm. She always wanted what I had, but she never intended to hurt anyone. That's what made it so frustrating. I had always forgiven her, but now I decided I would never forgive her again.
If you feel bad, show it through your actions. You apologized before, but you quickly forgot about it. If you had really reflected on what you did, this wouldn't have happened.
When she took my boyfriend, she said, "I'm really sorry, sis. But I'm serious about him." They started dating but broke up soon after. You said you loved him so much. Why did you break up? I just lost interest. Her quick breakup made it clear she hadn't learned her lesson, and I was shocked again. To top it off, my ex-boyfriend wanted to get back together. I thought your sister was cuter, but I realized you're easier to be with. Can we start over?
You're the one who dumped me. How can you expect me to take you back? It sounds like you're saying I'm more convenient.
Some people might think we should try again, but I couldn't accept the fact that he had cheated. That's why I warned my sister before I got married. Even if I get married, you don't need to get close to your brother-in-law. Just treat him like a colleague. If you chose him, I want to get along with him. Even if it's just his family, you fell for my boyfriend before. I don't want that to happen again. Yeah, divorce would be terrible. I get it. I'll be careful. Yet here we are. No matter how much I told her, it made no difference. It confirmed that she wouldn't listen. I was happy having our child together. But you destroyed that. I know I should have been more attentive to Sean. I thought we had enough family time, but we should have talked more. Mia, it's not your fault. Don't blame yourself. I don't want to be with Sean anymore, but I wish him happiness. We got married through a matchmaker, and I didn't have strong feelings, but I wanted to make him happy. I just couldn't understand him. Hannah, are you really going to make him happy?
Of course.
Really? You always wanted my things, but you quickly got bored. You broke up with my boyfriend so easily. I was heartbroken because I cared about him. Isn't this the same?
It's not. I'm serious. I'm really sorry, sis. But I'm serious about Sean.
Just because you're serious doesn't mean an apology is enough. It's okay, Mom. If she's truly sorry. I composed myself and faced my sister again. Then take responsibility until the end. I'm shocked you two cheated, but I want you to be happy. Sean has been my partner, and you're my dear sister.
Sis. Yes, I'll take good care of him. You better reflect on what you've done. Don't ever do something like this again. You're old enough to know better, so stop taking things from Mia.
Mia was hurt. Being cheated on is a shocking thing, you know? If you've reflected on it, at least make sure to pay the alimony. I got it. And so, the discussion about the affair and divorce ended. I never imagined something like this would happen between sisters. Of course not. Even though we had talked it out, our parents couldn't hide their shock and looked gloomy. My sister, realizing her fault, kept her eyes down. Trying to lighten the mood, I spoke up. So, what are you two going to do now? Are you having a wedding? We'd like to, but it might be a while. If you want, I can introduce you to someone who works at a wedding venue. It'll make things easier and probably get you a good deal. Really? Is that okay? You don't have to go that far just because she's your sister. This whole thing was certainly a shock, but I was looking forward to seeing Hannah looking beautiful at her wedding. I wanted to see her in a wedding dress. As long as she truly reflects on what she did, I don't mind helping. I don't want you two to be unhappy. What about your honeymoon? I have a contact who can get you a great deal.
Really? Please do.
Normally, sisters don't go this far. You should be grateful to Mia. No backing out later.
Yes, I understand.
There's the house we bought. It's Sean's now. I'll be moving out soon, so will you live there with Sean? Can I really live there? That house is too big for Sean alone. It's in a good location and perfect for a family. If you're getting married, you should live there together. I won't live there anymore, but I have fond memories, and I'd like you to take care of it.
The house you lived in was wonderful. I'm so happy. I'll take good care of it.
How could my sister say the house was wonderful when I never invited her over? Thinking about it too much made my chest hurt, so I ignored it and talked about the wedding and honeymoon plans. And thus, the discussion at home came to an end. Later, I received a lump sum of alimony from my sister. I'm really sorry. I added extra as a token of my apology. I also received a lump sum of alimony and child support from my ex-husband. It's helpful to get it all at once, but are you sure it's okay? I've nearly depleted my savings, but I have my job and the house, so I'll manage. Thanks for helping with the wedding and honeymoon arrangements. It was nothing. This will probably be the last time we meet like this. Goodbye. We'll see each other occasionally. Take care.
Goodbye, Dad. Stay well.
Then I moved out with my daughter. She's only 3 years old, and since our separation was amicable, she didn't seem to fully understand.
Mommy. Today at preschool.
She wasn't particularly sad. In fact, she enjoyed her new preschool and didn't miss her father. My ex-husband and sister started living together, and things seemed to be going well for them. 2 months after settling into our new life, they had a grand wedding.
You look so beautiful. Congratulations on your wedding. You look like a princess. Wow. Thank you for coming. I'm going to be happy. Thanks for everything.
They left for their honeymoon in high spirits. But when they returned from their trip, "Hey, can you lend me the alimony money back? I promise I'll return it soon." What happened? My ex-husband called, sounding desperate. When we got back from the honeymoon and I went to work, I was suddenly demoted. I was a manager and was about to get promoted, but now. And the wedding and honeymoon bills were higher than expected. We can't cover them with Hannah's income either. Didn't you check the costs? I thought you chose a pretty good plan. I looked at the costs, but I thought there'd be more discounts because it was through your introduction. Can you get them to reduce it further? They already gave you a good deal. It's just poor planning on your part. We're divorced now, so you need to handle it yourself. I even tried to sell the house to cover the expenses. No. I want to live here. I promised my sister I'd take care of it. Hannah and I fought, but even the appraisal wasn't high enough. We really can't pay. Please, lend me some money. It's your responsibility. You should be able to get a loan. It would be a large loan with high interest. Plus, living with Hannah has made the neighbors suspicious. They know about the affair, and it's hard. Please, help me. It's your own fault. Besides, I don't trust you'd pay me back, and I don't want to deal with it. Even with the demotion, you're still an employee, so you should be able to get a loan, right? No way. If I hadn't been demoted, I could have managed. How did it come to this? Hearing my ex-husband's pained voice, I almost sighed. Because that company is strict about affairs. But a sudden demotion like this doesn't make sense. Sure, they would have found out eventually, but it's unusual for them to take action so quickly. They probably acted quickly because the main shareholder requested it. What? What do you mean? Remember when I told you I started investing? I invested in several places, including your company. I wanted to support the company you worked for, so I bought enough shares to become the main shareholder. You bought that many shares? That must have cost a lot. I knew you succeeded in starting a business, but I didn't realize it was that much. When I had a child, I decided to work from home. I learned about people who had started side businesses successfully. With a child, we'll need more money, and I'd like to earn more than I do now. I'll start a side business and see if I can eventually make it a full-time thing. That was my motivation. As I got more serious about earning money, I started learning more. Eventually, I succeeded and started my own business. It was tough starting the business, but I've met so many people I wouldn't have as an employee. I'm glad I took the challenge of a side business. When I decided to quit my job to focus on my business, I discussed it with my husband. I want to quit my current job and focus on my business. I'm already earning a lot, and I think I can make even more.
That's amazing. You're earning so much. Okay, I'll support you. I'll work hard to get promoted so I won't lose to you.
My earnings increased further, eventually becoming several times my previous salary as an employee. With this, we don't have to worry about our daughter's future. I feel like trying something new. I became interested in investing. Hey, I want to try investing. What do you think? Isn't investing difficult? I've heard you can lose a lot. I've studied it, and I'll make sure it doesn't affect the family. Then it's your money, so go ahead and try it. Thanks. I'm thinking about buying shares in your company. You're working there, and I hope the company grows bigger. But I realized that hearing about the company from you might be illegal. Really? We don't talk about it much now, but I'd prefer you avoid discussing your work details. Okay. I'll be careful. I started investing to support my husband, but I never expected it to help with revenge. Being the main shareholder means they listen to me a bit. And the company conducted its own investigation, which confirmed the affair, leading to your demotion. Didn't you say you wanted us to be happy? Why would you do this if you wanted us to be happy? We're struggling because of this. I do want you to be happy. That's why I helped with the wedding and honeymoon, using my connections. Normally, it would have taken more time and cost much more. That's true, but why did you get me demoted? Did you think I wouldn't feel anything after being cheated on? I figured you'd despair more if you were brought down from happiness.
Did you do this on purpose? That's cruel.
I don't want to hear that from someone who cheated so easily. My ex-husband fell silent, probably feeling guilty. I'm sorry. But please, lend me some money. You earn enough that it should be easy for you. He still didn't want to take out a loan. Then my sister, realizing I was on the phone, chimed in.
Sis, we can't pay this off. We'll definitely pay you back, but please lend us some money. The neighbors are treating us badly, and we're struggling. Help us, sis.
This is the result of your actions. Handle it yourselves. Our parents told you to take responsibility, remember?
But we can't do it.
No matter what you say, I'm not helping. You're married now, so help each other. It might take time, but you can solve it together. I'm just a regular employee now, and everyone at work looks at me with suspicion. Mia, you could solve this easily. Please help us. We just got married, but this isn't a happy newlywed life. Please help us. Ignoring their continued pleas, I hung up the phone. Eventually, my ex-husband and sister sold the house for a modest amount and moved into a shabby apartment, working hard to pay off their debts. If only I hadn't met Hannah, I wouldn't have gotten divorced. I could have gotten promoted and lived in that house. If only I hadn't fallen for Sean, I wouldn't have been hated by my sister. Now we're in debt. They regret their actions but are working together to pay off their debts. They feel ostracized at work and have taken on part-time jobs, leaving them exhausted. As for me, I live peacefully with my daughter. I can't forgive the affair, but maybe I could have prevented it if I'd been more attentive. Maybe if I'd been stricter with Hannah, she wouldn't have gone after my boyfriend or husband. I don't want to see them anymore, but I'll try not to dwell on it if they truly reflect on their actions. I realized that my leniency towards my sister contributed to her behavior. She was a troublesome child, but I found her loving. I need to be more careful. Reflecting on how I treated my sister, I decided to raise my daughter properly so she wouldn't end up the same way. Bob quickly stuffed his smartphone into his jacket pocket. Then suddenly, Lily said to Bob with a serious face,
Bob, why did you bury the baby in the mountain?
Hearing this, both I and Natalie stopped our conversation and looked at Lily, stunned.
What?
Bob's face turned pale.
What are you talking about?
Bob answered, flustered.
The baby I saw on your phone earlier.
Lily said with a stern expression.
Show me the photos on your phone again.
Prompted by Lily, Bob opened his photo album and showed pictures from their recent camping trip.
Not this one.
Saying so, Lily quickly grabbed the smartphone from Bob's hand and swiped the screen. In an instant, Bob exclaimed, "Oh," and tried to take his phone back. Dodging Bob's attempt, Lily turned the phone screen to me and Natalie to show them the picture. It was a photo of an unfamiliar young woman.
She approached me first. She said she was having work issues and wanted some advice.
Bob insisted he was just accompanying her because she asked him to. Thanks to Lily's mysterious ability, I came to know about Bob's hidden side. The reason Bob was coming home late and constantly looking at his phone late at night was this. I made Bob guide me to the mountain where the baby was buried. Holding the unearthed baby. I was heading to Bob's workplace a few days later. My name is Shelby Roberts. I'm 29 years old. I've been married to Bob for exactly a year now. Bob is a salaried worker like me and is also 29. I also work a full-time job and spend my days quite busy. My husband and I don't have any kids yet. I met Bob through a friend's introduction. After dating for several years, we got married last year. The wedding was truly touching. Bob helps with the household chores. He even cooks dinner once in a while. He's the perfect husband in my eyes. Marrying him, I felt truly blessed. About 20 minutes drive from our apartment, my older sister Natalie lives. Natalie is 3 years older than me and is already married with a 5-year-old daughter named Lily. Natalie and her family purchased a house where the three of them live. I adore my niece, Lily. Lily affectionately calls me Aunt Shelby and is very fond of me. Once, when I visited my sister's house, Lily suddenly told me,
Hey, when I was in Mommy's belly, I remember hearing your voice. Huh?
I was genuinely taken aback.
Do you remember being in Mom's belly, Lily? I heard Dad's voice too.
Lily replied with a serious face. I've heard of kids having memories from the womb, but this was the first time someone told me directly about it. When I told Natalie about this, she said, yeah, every now and then, Lily mentions things from when she was inside me. I never knew kids could remember such things. Impressed, Natalie shared more with me.
That's not all. Sometimes, when I can't find something, she tells me where it is. And it's not like she saw me put it there, but whenever I look where Lily tells me to, I always find it there. That's amazing. I can't quite put my finger on it, but Lily seems to have some sort of special gift.
Natalie said, looking at me earnestly. A little way off, Lily was innocently playing with her teddy bear. It made me wonder if young children might have some sort of unique power. As these thoughts crossed my mind, I gazed at Lily. Sometime later, Bob started coming home later and later. At first, I figured work must be tough, but lately, he'd often come home after midnight. I began to worry. Late one night, as Bob hurriedly headed for the shower, I called out.
Bob, you've been working late a lot, huh? Yeah, the boss just won't let me leave on time.
With that, Bob quickly shut the door behind him and went into the bathroom. About 5 minutes later, Bob came out. I offered him the dinner I had prepared, but he replied, sorry, I'm just too tired to eat.
Well, I'm gonna head to bed then. Good night.
It was already quite late, and I figured Bob would join me in the bedroom soon, given how tired he claimed to be. But an hour, then 2, passed, and he didn't come. Feeling restless, I quietly walked out to peek into the living room. In the dimly lit room, Bob was seated on the couch, engrossed in his smartphone. From the movement of his fingers, it looked like he was texting someone. And he had a big grin on his face. Why was he so happy, especially after such a long day? Was he messaging someone? And if so, who? My heart filled with anxiety. Lacking the courage to confront Bob, I returned to the bedroom.
Hey, Bob, how about we go camping during the upcoming long weekend?
One day, I brought up the idea. Although we were newlyweds, we hadn't gone out anywhere lately. Until not long ago, we'd spend our weekends going to the movies or visiting amusement parks. I wanted to go to the mountains with Bob and spend some quality time together.
There's this campsite in the mountains. We could set up a tent, have a barbecue, and at night, look at the stars. Sounds fun, right?
Bob didn't seem too excited, but I really wanted to go. I believed he'd enjoy it once we got there.
All right, fine. But what about the car? Ours isn't big enough for all the camping gear.
When Bob mentioned that, I decided to consult Natalie. One day, I visited Natalie's place alone. I asked her about the car situation.
You can borrow our van. And feel free to use our tent too.
Natalie happily offered. Her van was big and suited for mountain roads, with ample space for our gear. I thanked Natalie for her kindness.
Thanks, you're a lifesaver. Take some time and relax together as a couple, it's been a while.
While I was talking with Natalie, Lily overheard and chimed in, "Are you guys going camping? I wish I could go."
That'd be nice, we should go with Lily next time.
The day before our camping trip finally arrived, and I borrowed a car from Natalie's house and drove it home. The next day, Bob and I headed out in that car for a 3-day, 2-night camping adventure. Breathing in the fresh air, surrounded by nature, I felt truly rejuvenated. Bob seemed to be enjoying himself more than usual, with a big smile on his face.
I'm really glad we decided to head to the mountains, even if it took a bit of convincing.
As I chatted with Bob, that was what I thought deep down. But late that night, Bob, who was sleeping next to me, got up quietly and started using his smartphone. I pretended to be asleep. He spent about 2 hours on his phone. It seemed like he was texting someone. The same thing happened the next night. Then, on the 3rd day, we returned home from the campsite. It was around 4 p.m.
When were we supposed to return this car? Natalie said if we bring it back tomorrow, it'll be fine.
As I responded, Bob's excitement was evident.
So, can I take the car out for a bit? Now?
I was surprised. We had just come back from camping, and he wanted to go out again.
I wanted to invite some local buddies and try out a big car like this. You're not gonna drink, right? I promise, no drinking. When will you be back? I'll make sure to be home before midnight. We're on vacation, it's okay once in a while, right?
After some persuasion from Bob, I reluctantly agreed. Whistling a cheerful tune, Bob hopped into the car and left in high spirits. Even if they were local buddies, I wondered if they would all be available on such short notice. While pondering this, I spent a lonely evening at home. Just a few minutes before midnight, Bob came back.
See, I made it home before midnight and I didn't drink,
Bob said immediately upon returning. Then, he quickly took out his smartphone and started checking it again.
Bob, you've been on your phone a lot lately,
I said with a hint of annoyance.
I'm just texting the friends I was with earlier.
Saying this, Bob took his smartphone to the bathroom. The next day, Bob and I went to Natalie's house to return the car and tent. When we gave them some snacks we bought near the campsite as a thank you gift, Lily was delighted. Natalie invited Bob and me inside and made us coffee. Lily had become quite fond of Bob as they had met several times. Since Natalie referred to Bob as Mr. Bob, Lily had also started calling him that. Lily and Bob were sitting on the couch playing together, with Bob responding with a warm smile. Soon after, Lily requested to see the photos Bob had taken during the camping trip on his smartphone. While Natalie and I were chatting, she asked,
How was the camping? Did you have fun? Yes, it was great. Thanks for the car and tent, they were a huge help.
Suddenly, Bob said in a loud voice to Lily, don't touch it without permission. That's it, as he quickly took his smartphone away from Lily. Lily seemed to have fiddled with the smartphone.
Nuh-uh, you can't touch things without asking.
Natalie gently reprimanded Lily.
I wanted to see more of Bob's photos,
Lily said with a pout. Bob hurriedly put his phone back in his pocket. Suddenly, Lily said seriously to Bob,
Bob, why did you bury the baby in the mountain?
Hearing this, both Natalie and I stopped talking and stared at Lily in surprise. Bob's face turned pale as a ghost.
What are you talking about?
Stammering, Bob responded.
The baby I saw on your phone earlier,
Lily said with a serious look.
Bob, show me the pictures on your phone again.
Prompted by Lily, Bob opened his photo gallery to display camping photos.
Not this one,
Lily responded, swiftly taking the phone from Bob and swiping the screen. Bob, taken aback, exclaimed, "Oh," and tried to snatch his phone back quickly. Avoiding Bob's grab, Lily showed Natalie and me the phone screen. A picture displayed an unfamiliar young woman. She was holding a large baby doll plush, grinning widely. In the background was a claw machine. It seemed the photo was taken in an arcade. Presumably, the stuffed doll was a prize she won from the claw machine. "Who's this?" I asked in a low voice. Looking panicked, Bob tried to retrieve the phone from Lily. Just then, Lily handed the phone to me, and as I swiped, a photo of Bob and the young woman taking a selfie while closely hugging each other appeared. Swiping again revealed another picture of Bob and the woman, lying side by side, apparently in a car. Upon closer inspection, the car's interior matched the one Natalie had lent out. The seats were flattened, and it seemed the two were lying down, taking pictures. Bob's eyes darted left and right. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Natalie looked at me with concern. Just then, our brother-in-law, returning from work, entered. I wanted to immediately confront Bob about the woman in the photos. However, I couldn't do it in front of Lily and our brother-in-law. Thankfully, Natalie suggested that she take care of Lily with the help of our brother-in-law and that we should move to another room. Bob, Natalie, and I went upstairs, closed the door, and continued the conversation. "Who's the woman in the pictures?" Bob was reluctant to speak. However, after persistent questioning from Natalie and me, Bob finally admitted. The woman in the photo was a coworker named Jane Smith. She's 23. She had joined his workplace as a new recruit this spring. Bob had been cheating on me with this woman. I felt like I was about to pass out. "She was the one who approached me. She said she was having trouble at work and wanted to talk," Bob tried to explain. "Bob, can you show us what kind of messages you exchanged with this Jane?" Natalie suddenly asked. I can't really do that," Bob exclaimed in distress. "If there was infidelity, I want to see the evidence as your sister-in-law." "Of course, Shelby should know as well," Natalie argued. Bob was adamant about not showing his phone, but after Natalie's strong persuasion, he reluctantly handed it over to her. When Natalie looked at Bob's phone, there was a ton of conversations with Jane. The two whispered sweet nothings to each other multiple times a day. One day, I was shocked to read their messages. It was a message from late at night when Bob went out with the car he borrowed from Natalie. "Today was fun. It was only for a short time, but I'm glad I got to see you, Jane. I was so happy to get cozy with you in such a big car. I only sneaked out of the house today just for that. Bob, when are you gonna get divorced from your wife? Try to do it soon. Someday, if we can get married, you'll give birth to my child, won't you, Jane?" "Yes. I trust you and will wait for you." I was stunned and frozen from shock after reading this. "What's this?" Bob was sweating profusely, looking extremely uncomfortable. "Bob, tell me everything." Bob, realizing he couldn't escape the situation, started to confess in detail. Jane had approached Bob for advice and they started going out for meals. Bob drove Jane home since it was late. She still lived with her parents, so they couldn't go to her house, so they would park the car in a nearby park and talk until late. Eventually, they became intimate. The times Bob claimed to be working late, he was actually out on dates with Jane. One day, after coming back from camping, he wanted to go on a drive date using the car he borrowed from Natalie. Bob lied to me, met up with Jane, and they enjoyed their drive. They stopped at an arcade on the way. Upon Jane's insistence, Bob won a large baby plush toy from a claw machine. "It's like we're a married couple with a baby," Jane exclaimed joyfully, holding the plush. They decided to bury the plush toy in the mountain like a time capsule and promised to dig it up once they got married to remember the day. They placed the toy in a large plastic bag and buried it in the mountain behind the park where they often parked to get cozy. Since we just returned from camping, there was a shovel in the car, which was convenient for them. "What's that all about?" I was disgusted to hear the story. Natalie, sitting next to me, was lost for words, frowning. Burying a baby plush in the mountains is creepy. And what's more heartbreaking is that they've already made promises to get married. Bob even told Jane, "If we ever get married, you'll give birth to my child." Bob kept emphasizing that Jane was the one who initiated things, but his comments also fueled the flame. This hurt me even more. We've been married for only a year, and we don't have children yet. Meanwhile, Bob is making promises of marriage with a young coworker and even thinking about having a baby with her. I broke down crying in front of Bob and Natalie. Natalie comforted me, while Bob looked around nervously.
But it's strange, how did Lily know just by looking at the picture that Bob buried a baby plush in the mountains?
After crying my heart out, I muttered, "Maybe that child has some mysterious powers," Natalie agreed. Bob looked puzzled. But he didn't have the courage to ask Natalie and me for details and once again looked defeated. It was getting late, so Bob and I returned to our apartment. Once home, Bob and I sat down to continue our conversation. "We've only been married for a year, and you have the audacity to betray me like this?" I glared at Bob and exclaimed,
"I'm sorry. But really, if she hadn't tempted me, I wouldn't have done this." "You have some nerve saying that. You were clearly enjoying yourself with that young woman."
Furious with Bob's excuses, I lashed out at him.
"Bob, you're terrible, but that Jane girl is just as bad. She knew you were married." "Well, she's been having a hard time at work and struggling."
I was flabbergasted by Bob's attempt to defend Jane.
"So, because she seemed troubled, you thought you'd console her and get all cozy in your car? I've been concerned for a while. You've been coming home late, and I've noticed you on your phone till the early hours. I pretended to be asleep, but I knew you were constantly texting someone,"
I said loudly to Bob. He looked down, remaining silent.
"For starters, I'm telling my parents and yours about this."
When I said this, Bob started to panic.
"It's only right to tell our parents. My sister already knows, so I can't keep this a secret."
I exposed Bob's affair to both our parents. Soon, both sets of parents stormed into our home, berating Bob.
"How dare you have an affair just a year into your marriage? Shelby deserves better. What were your wedding vows? You promised to make our daughter happy, but you betrayed her so easily."
My parents vehemently rebuked Bob. Even more so, Bob's parents were livid.
"We never thought you'd be such a disgrace. You're the shame of the Roberts family." "That's right. Don't even think about coming home. More importantly, we're so sorry, Shelby. To think you're still newlyweds. It's utterly embarrassing having a son like this."
Bob's parents then apologized to me again.
"Hey, what are you waiting for? Bob, apologize too."
"I'm truly sorry." With tears streaming down his face, Bob said this after being berated by both sets of parents.
"You have a wonderful wife like Shelby, and yet you do this. We're cutting ties with you, Bob. Got it?"
After being thoroughly scolded and everyone left, Bob collapsed on the floor.
"Bob, I want a divorce,"
I stated firmly.
"You probably want to marry Jane and have kids with her. I'll gladly divorce someone like you. I admit I texted about marriage and kids, but that wasn't my real intention. I just wanted to make her happy in the moment. The one I truly love is you, Shelby." "Huh?" Hearing that just made me dislike you even more,"
I said coldly, leaving Bob with a bewildered look. There's no way I would be swayed by such words.
"I can't trust you anymore. I want a divorce. Please, reconsider. I never really wanted to marry Jane. It was just a fling."
Bob, having betrayed me, was now desperately trying to make amends.
"Can you show me where you buried the baby doll?"
The long weekend ended, and it was Bob's day to go to work. I had to work too, but I took the day off.
"Excuse me, my husband works here. Thank you for always taking care of him."
I loudly greeted everyone as I entered the office building. That was Bob's workplace. Everyone there was staring at me, completely taken aback. No wonder, as I was holding a stuffed baby toy covered in dirt. The sight was so bizarre that the employees were frozen in shock with wide eyes. Every step I took, dirt from the stuffed toy fell onto the office floor. Bob, his face ashen, hurriedly approached me. Yesterday, I had Bob guide me to the mountain where the stuffed toy was buried. And in front of me, I had him dig up that stuffed baby toy. The toy was in a large bag, but as we dug it up with a shovel, the bag tore, getting the toy dirty. Last night, I had thought of using this toy somehow to take revenge on the two of them. And what I came up with was this plan: to barge into the office holding this dirt-covered stuffed baby toy. Bob, never expecting me to show up at the office with the toy, seemed utterly panicked. "My husband has been having an affair with a junior colleague, Jane," I said. Upon saying this, all the employees focused their attention on one woman. It was Jane, Bob's affair partner. Jane, like Bob, turned pale and looked down in sheer embarrassment. He told me that they would bury this stuffed toy until they got married, and once their dream came true, they would dig it up together, I said. I could hear whispers of disbelief from the employees, saying things like, "No way. That's so creepy, and sounds like a horror story." "But what I don't get is why he would tell me something like this while he's cheating on me with Jane," I said, and then played a video on my phone. Bob's voice echoed loudly. "Please, reconsider. I never really intended to marry her. She was just a fling." After the video finished playing, Jane, who had been looking down just moments before, sharply raised her head, her expression furious. "Just a fling? Bob, what does that mean?" she demanded. "No, it's not like that," Bob stammered, lost for words. "You promised to break up with your wife and marry me. You even said you wanted me to have your baby," Jane yelled. The employees were once again shocked by her words, and a commotion broke out. "Here you go." I handed the dirt-covered stuffed baby toy to Jane. Then I handed Bob a divorce attorney's business card. "We're getting divorced. From now on, let's communicate through the attorney." Overwhelmed by my determination, Bob silently took the card. "I apologize for the commotion, everyone. I've finished my business here, so I'll be on my way," said to Bob and Jane. "I wish you two all the happiness." With that, I left Bob's office. I brushed the dirt off my clothes as I walked away. Later, I heard that both Bob and Jane confessed to their affair when questioned by their superiors. Concerned about the company's image, they were both promptly fired. Jane was furious upon being called just a fling. She transitioned from a timid new employee to a woman filled with rage. After I moved out of our shared apartment, Jane forcefully moved in with Bob. Bob was threatened by Jane, "You never know what I might do." He had no choice but to do as she said. Bob was fired from his job and tried to find another, but Jane forbade him from talking to other women. Bob was fed up with Jane, but given her unpredictable nature, he reluctantly complied. Bob ended up working at a construction site with only men, putting in hard labor every day. Jane took away Bob's freedom, constantly checking his smartphone as if monitoring him. She probably feared someone else would snatch Bob from her, just as she had done. Not only was Bob burdened with paying the rent for the apartment and living expenses, but he was also pressed with paying me compensation for the emotional distress he caused. I had also demanded compensation from Jane for the same reasons. She seemed to have started working multiple part-time jobs, but she kept getting fired, hopping from one job to the next. The lawyer who helped with the compensation issue had a chance to meet with Bob. That's when he learned about the miserable life of Bob and Jane and reported back to me. After the divorce, I moved back to my parents' home. My workplace was within commuting distance from home, so I continued with my job as before. Living at home meant I had many more opportunities to see not just my parents, but also Natalie and Lily. Natalie genuinely sympathized with me, offering words of encouragement. "Shelby, you've been through a lot. You're still young, you'll surely find someone better." "I hope so. But thanks to Lily's mysterious power, I was able to part ways with that awful man quickly." I genuinely felt that way. It was a silver lining that I got divorced from such a man so quickly. I felt like Lily, with her mysterious power, was a lifesaver. I hope to someday meet an honest man and get married. And I'd like to have and raise children. For that time, I'm gonna work hard and save money now. With such thoughts, I'm living each day with a positive attitude.
Mom.
In shock, I opened my eyes wide and looked down at my daughter, Emily. It was the first time she had called me Mom. Emily, my husband's daughter from his previous marriage, hadn't warmed up to me at all this past year. But now she called me for the first time. I was on the verge of tears when she reached out her right hand to me. In her open palm was a ring. Upon closer inspection, it was a wedding ring. It looked like it was sized for a woman. As Emily, the child I didn't give birth to, lowered her gaze and trembled, I knelt down beside her.
It's from your real mom. Do you want to meet her?
My husband was on a business trip abroad. Feeling lonely with just the two of us, I gently asked her.
Nah, I want you to throw it away.
Huh?
Well.
As I listened to Emily's story, I felt anger building up inside me. I should leave, right? I tightly hugged my 10-year-old daughter who came to such a conclusion. Stroking Emily's crying head, I whispered.
Tell that person tomorrow that I'll do as she wishes.
I won't forgive anyone who makes my daughter cry. They'll get what they deserve. My name is Catherine, 29 years old. I got married last year and am currently a stay-at-home mom. My husband, Bob, is 37 and it's a second marriage for both of us. We met at work. Excluding the fact that the company was owned by my father, we had a typical senior-junior relationship. By the time I joined the company, he had already divorced his previous wife, but he was a very reliable senior. Emily, Bob's daughter, is 10. Even after being married to Bob for a year, she hadn't warmed up to me at all. Emily would answer when I asked something. She would eat all her meals without leaving anything. But she never initiated a conversation with me or talked about school or friends. I understand it's a tricky age and maybe that's just how it is, but I couldn't help but feel lonely. I heard that the relationship between Emily's real mother, Linda, and Bob was not good. Linda was a heavy drinker and had multiple affairs. If it weren't for Emily, Bob said they would have divorced sooner. There were times when Bob would come home late at night and find the house empty. It was said that once or twice, a kindergarten-aged Emily was left alone, crying. Because of this, they often had marital disputes. Emily apparently saw all this and kept saying through her tears, "I don't want you guys to split up." Back then, Emily really had it tough. That's what Bob said. Indeed, she was left alone at home, feeling lonely and scared, crying, and then hearing her parents argue because of it. It was probably a time when she needed her mom's affection the most. Every day, she should have been playing, laughing with her friends, unconditionally loved by her mom and dad, and going to bed happy. When she was in kindergarten, those should have been her days. I wanted to tell Linda straight to her face that she was a failure as a mother. The day Emily started second grade, Linda disappeared, leaving only a divorce paper with a ring and signature on the table. The breakfast dishes were still dirty, and the laundry wasn't done either. Emily probably didn't even understand what a divorce paper was. Thinking about how Emily felt waiting for her mother in such a situation broke my heart. For a year after that, Bob raised Emily on his own. Before that, Bob, being my senior, had often taught me and helped me with my work. So, I thought it was my turn to help him out, taking on some of his tasks and working late with him so he could get home earlier. But I wasn't the only one. Everyone supported Bob because he was competent and had a kind personality. When the school called because Emily had a fever, I was the one who made a fuss.
Please go home to her. It's so sad she's sick. Well, I have a meeting in the afternoon. At least I want to make an apology call to them first. Boss, can he go home right away? I can make the apology call.
My voice echoed down the corridor.
I'll explain it to them.
My dad, who happened to be passing by, let Bob go home immediately. After work, I visited Emily, and that incident brought Bob and me closer than ever before. My parents, who knew about Bob's reputation and character at the company, didn't object to our marriage, even though he was divorced. I consider Emily as my real family. Contrary to my feelings, even a year after our marriage, Emily hadn't warmed up to me. But on the night Bob left for an international business trip, Emily spoke to me. "Mom, actually, I stopped cooking and turned around. I looked down at Emily in disbelief. She finally called me for the first time. At the same time, I felt my vision blur. On the verge of tears. I sniffed and looked at Emily's outstretched right hand. On her palm was a small ring. Upon closer look, it was a wedding ring. Probably a woman's.
It's my biological mother's.
I wiped my hands on my apron and crouched down. Even if she was such a terrible mother, she might still be important to Emily. Bob was away on his business trip. I thought Emily might be feeling lonely with just me, a stranger, so I gently asked,
"Do you want to see your real mom?"
But Emily shook her head and said,
"I want you to throw this away." "Why?"
I wondered, baffled by her sudden request.
"You know, I met my mom yesterday."
"Yesterday?
After school?" "Not just yesterday. Several times on my way home, she was there, asking about my new mom. Even if I said I didn't know, she kept asking."
"About me?" I wondered why. Did she want to confirm her last bit of maternal love and whether her daughter was being treated well? But my thoughts were completely overturned.
"My mom said, your new mom is pretty wealthy, huh? I heard she's the daughter of the CEO where your dad works."
Chills ran down my spine. I felt an overwhelming revulsion.
"Weren't you told anything else?" "My mom met with my dad. She told my dad to either send me over or bring money. But it seems like dad doesn't have much money. Mom said she's gonna talk to my new mom next. She told me to throw a fit and say I don't want to go to her place."
Tears streamed down Emily's face. I felt a wave of anger rising within me. Should I leave? I embraced my 10-year-old daughter, who had come to such a heartbreaking conclusion. Stroking Emily's tear-streaked face, I whispered,
"Tell her tomorrow that you'll do as she wishes."
I can't accept someone like that as a mother. She made my daughter cry. And she's gonna pay for it. That night, after Emily was asleep, I called Bob. I confirmed what Emily had told me earlier.
"It's true. I didn't tell you, Catherine, because I didn't want to worry you. But ambushing Emily. I didn't know about that either. It was news to me. However, I did ask Emily if she wanted to live with her mom. Even though she's no good, she's Emily's real mom. But Emily said she didn't want to. She wants to continue living here. But it seems Linda has been visiting her quite a few times."
Bob's anger was palpable even over the phone. I understood his feelings entirely. "Anyway, on the next school holiday, I'm gonna meet with Linda along with Emily," I told him. Bob responded with urgency in his voice.
"Can you wait until I return from my trip?" "No, I can't. She made Emily cry. I can't stay quiet any longer."
I reassured Bob, saying, "Don't worry." Then hung up. The next day, as I was tidying my room, Emily came home from school.
"How was it today? Did she show up? Did you give her the note?" "Yes, she said to make sure I'm there at 10 a.m. on Saturday." "All right, thank you."
The note I gave her specified to meet at a coffee shop on a school-free Saturday. I bet Linda believes she's gonna get money without any suspicion. Seeing the sad expression on Emily's face, I suggested, "How about we go buy some new clothes to wear?"
"Huh? We gotta dress up nicely. It's gonna be the last time we see her on Saturday."
Still looking unsure, I asked Emily one more time.
"Are you really okay never seeing her again?"
"I don't want to see someone who causes trouble for Dad and you," Emily said, her eyes filled with determination. Well then, wash your hands, and have some snacks from the fridge, I instructed, and she happily complied. Watching Emily energetically exclaim yep, and dash to the bathroom, I began putting the old books I'd taken out back into the paper bag. Emily and I were dressed in clothes that anyone could instantly recognize as high-end brands, and we headed towards our designated coffee shop. I usually wouldn't pick out such clothes. Whether they're expensive or not, I just want to dress Emily in clothes she looks good in and that she loves. However, today even this serves as a way to challenge the other party.
All right, Emily? No matter what I or she says, you're gonna trust me, right?
Emily, nodding firmly, had her head gently stroked by me. Holding hands, we confidently walked into the coffee shop.
Oh, Emily, you're wearing such lovely clothes. It really suits you.
Linda, who was already there, said with a big grin on her face. Sit next to your mother, she instructed. Ignoring Linda's words, Emily chose to sit next to me. Linda's face twitched slightly, but she quickly put on a smile to cover it up. I also smiled and deliberately placed a heavy paper bag and a branded purse right in front of Emily.
There's something precious inside. Keep an eye on it.
The color in Linda's eyes changed. She was greedily staring at the paper bag, probably thinking it contained a luxury purse and money. I ordered a coffee for myself and a cake set for Emily. After introducing ourselves, I quickly brought up the topic.
You want Emily back, huh?
Yes, indeed. She's such a lovely girl. I just want to raise her on my own, Linda replied.
I see. I heard from Bob that you, Catherine, truly love Emily like she's your own daughter. Of course I do. Well, it breaks my heart to think of taking Emily away from someone like you. So, I was thinking maybe you'd give me something in return.
Pretending not to understand, I tilted my head. Something in return? Like what?
What? You know what I mean.
Sorry, I'm not really familiar with such things. During the ensuing awkward silence, I sipped my coffee. Emily, who had been looking down at her phone since earlier, was gently urged by me to try her cake, saying, "Eat up, it's delicious." Linda clicked her tongue in slight annoyance. After a few moments of silence, she leaned in, seemingly impatient.
I mean, money. Just money. Money, you say?
I purposely asked back in a slightly louder voice. Linda frowned and sighed.
Obviously. I'm giving up my precious daughter. I deserve some compensation.
I interrupted.
No. I'm a mother too. I know how precious a child can be. I have no intention of snatching Emily away from you, Linda.
Linda sat there with her mouth agape. Emily looked surprised, dropping her fork and staring at me. I picked up the fallen fork and handed it back to Emily. She might have felt betrayed. It hurt me to think so, but since Emily had nodded in trust earlier, I decided to trust her as well. What on earth are you talking about? Linda exclaimed. As I said, if both you and Emily wish, I will return Emily to you. I'll even help persuade Bob, I assured. Linda said in disbelief, "Hold on a minute," chuckling. She looked over at Emily with an anxious expression.
Emily, you don't want to be separated from Catherine and your dad, do you?
She said, almost accusingly. Emily looked at Linda, then at me, and looked down. Lifting her face, she replied, "Either way is fine." Then she dropped her gaze to her smartphone.
Are you crazy?
Bang. Linda slammed the table. Emily looked up in surprise.
Well, then, I want child support. $10,000. No, that's not enough. Give me $50,000 to start.
Linda was desperate. Her patience was running thin, and her true colors were starting to show. I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms.
It's not up to you to decide, Linda. There should be a proper calculation for that. Discuss with Bob about paying more. It's not me who's gonna pay,
I said firmly. Linda, who thought she'd get the money easily, was getting more and more frustrated. But I kept my cool and stared right back at her. This was just the beginning. I'm gonna push her into a corner to ensure she never shows up in front of Emily again.
You did tell me through Emily, right? That you'd do as I wished.
Yes.
You haven't done anything. Your father is a CEO, isn't he? He can afford it.
As Linda's voice grew louder, I whispered, "People are watching." She looked around and shut her mouth. I exaggeratedly sighed and said,
"What are you talking about? I checked with you first, right? You wanted to take custody of Emily. You said you wanted to raise her. I agreed to help. Is there a problem?" "What problem?"
"You." Linda's lips trembled. I pressed on.
"Also, Linda, how do you plan to support Emily? Child support is meant for Emily's necessities, not for your luxury, you know?" "That's ridiculous. Bob left me for a younger woman. Emily, if it comes to that, you'll suffer with me. If you don't want that, beg this woman to pay me."
Her desperation was evident. She always lived selfishly, depending on others, never making an effort. It's no wonder she felt betrayed. She had it coming.
"So, are you saying this? Even though you have no intention of raising Emily, you want custody just for the money?"
Linda didn't answer. She just glared at me.
"I'll harass you until you pay up. I'll go to Emily's school. I'll scream outside your house. I'll make sure everyone knows you took her from me."
Linda growled, showing she was beyond caring about appearances.
"That's enough."
I reached out and grabbed a bag in front of Emily. From it, I took out a small voice recorder. I turned it off and showed it to Linda.
"That's a clear threat. And after hearing this, no one would want to give you custody. It's not about whether you have money or not, it's beyond that."
Linda jumped up, "Damn it." She tried to snatch the recorder from me, but I pulled it away. As she lunged further, a hand from the side grabbed her wrist. Both Linda and I turned to look.
"Dad!"
Emily's voice echoed through the restaurant.
"Bob, why are you here?"
Linda was shocked. I was curious too. Bob, with a cold look, said to Linda,
"If you try to harm my wife, I'll sue."
I had never seen Bob this assertive before. "Daddy!" Emily exclaimed, throwing her arms around him. Bob gently patted Emily's head. Although he was supposed to be on an overseas business trip, he was here. When asked why, he laughed and said, "How could I not come back during a family crisis?" He then turned his gaze back to Linda.
"You really should realize that as a mother, our daughter no longer accepts you. You're acting in ways that make you despised as a person."
Though his voice hinted at anger, Bob spoke calmly. This, however, surely dealt a heavy blow to Linda. Possibly more than any argument I've presented before. After all, while Linda still addresses Bob by his old familiar name, Bob now addresses her more formally and speaks to her with a certain distance. Linda clenched her teeth, looking down, her body quivering with frustration.
"At least,"
she began, her voice low and strained. Suddenly, she reached out, pulling a paper bag towards herself. "At least let me have this," she said, holding the bag protectively. "It's fine," I responded casually.
"I was actually gonna sell these books at a used bookstore later. If you want them, they're yours."
At my words, Linda let out a surprised "huh?" She checked the contents and quickly pushed them away.
"I don't want such dirty old books."
This was exactly the reaction I expected from Linda. I couldn't help but sigh internally. Oh, Emily hurriedly picked up the book that had fallen to the floor. She dusted each one off, looking sympathetic, and returned them to the bag. I stood up and crouched next to Emily. "These books were given to me by your grandpa," I explained.
"From Grandpa? Even though he's no longer with us, I thought he'd be okay with giving them away today. But since Linda doesn't seem to want them, would you like them, Emily?"
Emily looked up with a smile. "Yes, I'll cherish and read them." "That's good to hear," I smiled back. "Some of these are first editions, worth thousands of dollars each." The one most taken aback by this was Linda.
What? No way, I'll take the books. You said you'd give them to me, right?
Bob sighed at the sight of Linda standing up. He firmly grabbed her shoulder and made her sit back down.
You never learn, do you? This now belongs to Emily.
Linda tried to reason. Bob, no, Mr. Bob, please convince your wife. I really need the money. Bob responded, I don't care. But, I will cover the bill for our drinks here. He then turned to me, suggesting that we get ready to leave. Bob turned to Linda once more.
I'll tell you one more time, if you ever harass my wife or daughter again, I will not hesitate to take legal action.
After apologizing at the register for the commotion, we left the cafe. It turned out that Bob had requested an urgent return from his business trip. And the smartphone Emily was always fiddling with? Apparently, she'd been communicating with Bob. Since that day, Linda never showed up in front of Emily or me. However, after Bob returned from his business trip, Linda did visit him once. Apparently, she couldn't pay her rent and was evicted from her apartment. With worn-out clothes and carrying 2 bags, she pleaded with Bob, saying she only had a few $100s and needed help. Bob refused, advising her to live more responsibly. She cursed him out but eventually sobbed uncontrollably, like a child. After that day, Emily and I became inseparable, like a real mother and daughter. She started helping me prepare dinner and fold the laundry. It wasn't that she felt obligated, she simply enjoyed spending time with me. Above all, we shared countless stories.
Before you and Dad got married, when I had a fever, you came to visit me, didn't you?
Yes, I'd heard about you before, but that was the first time I met you in person. I always thought how nice it would be if you were my mom, Emily shared. Laughing, I asked, then why did you keep your distance? She admitted she didn't want to get too attached, fearing the eventual separation from Linda.
You didn't have to worry about that.
I comforted her. I am your mom now, and I'll always protect you.
We'll always talk and depend on each other, okay?
Sure thing. Emily replied with a radiant smile, which made me cherish our bond even